Hey everyone, Bob here, KD4BMG. Today on HOA Ham, we're going to take a look at this Retevis RB19 handheld GMRS transceiver. In the package, you'll receive one radio, one charging cable, one charging brick, and one very basic instruction manual. Thanks to my friends over at Retevis for providing me with two for testing purposes. And we're going to get away from fluff and just talk substance. What are these things about? What's their use case? And what are some of the features you need to be aware of so that you can make an informed decision? Let's talk use case. That's almost always where I start when I think about making a ham radio or GMRS radio investment. I'm not part of the Retevis marketing team. I don't know what they were thinking necessarily, but I can look at what they've presented here to the user, and it seems to me fairly obvious what they're trying to accomplish based on the relatively low cost of the initial investment to purchase a radio like this, the very basic manual that has very basic functions on the radio. That's not meant as a negative. I think they're trying to appeal to somebody who needs a radio out of the box to just turn on and operate. I don't think they're looking to appeal to users that want a full-featured GMRS radio where you want to get the software to program it and customize it and invest in a programming cable, etc. They don't even provide a programming cable here. They provide a charging cable that plugs into the USB-C connector and charges this radio. I think their audience is people who need a radio out of the box, charge it up, turn it on, and use it. So perhaps it's for somebody who doesn't have a GMRS license in the family, but you as the head of the family do, and you can buy several of these radios to use with your family. Nobody needs to be overly sophisticated in knowing how to program. There's not a programming cable. You would need to make an additional investment in a programming cable, download the programming software, get it to work with your Windows machine to change any of the parameters on this. So I think they're really gearing this towards first-time users, basic users, people that don't know anything about a radio. For those of you who do, you could make a purchase here, put this in the hands of somebody else in your group, in your family, making sure that everybody has coverage on their license, and you could all use this because it's that straightforward to use. I think that's the audience here. Or maybe it is for the experienced user and you're just after real small form factor. You're going to an event and you're trying to be incredibly discreet, and instead of putting this ultra tactical radio on your belt clip, you need something that just slides down into your pocket and disappears.
This is Whiskey Radio Papa Lima 305, transmitting from my second RB19, radio to radio, testing the sound quality. Whiskey Radio Papa Lima 305.
Communicating from radio to radio, very straightforward. However, Retevis has employed PL tones, subaudible tones, across all of the channels on this GMRS, which includes FRS channels. Some people don't know what to do with that. You can remove them using the custom program software. However, again, I think this goes back to the Retevis use case. They're intending for these to come out of the box and be used with a very finite group of people, that all those people hear is each other and they don't hear anybody else. They don't hear anyone else's radio talking to them. That's a problem for some people because they don't want their radio programmed that way. As long as you know that's what you're getting, you can deal with that. So what do I mean by these subaudible tones? We're on channel 2 on all three of these radios. When I key up on my first Retevis, you're going to see the second Retevis come to life, and you're going to see the green indicator button on my BTEC unit also come to life, meaning it's hearing this radio. Let's go ahead and do that right now. And there you could see both of those things happen. Whiskey Radio Papa Lima 305. So what about when I key up on my BTEC radio? Can they be heard, or can it be heard on these two Retevis units? No, it can't, because it doesn't have that subaudible tone programmed into channel 2. You can see the red transmit button. Whiskey Radio Papa Lima 305 testing. And nothing is happening on my Retevis radios. So just be aware that's what those PL tones, those subaudible tones do. When you buy these in a group of 1, well, that's not a group, 2, 3, 4, 5, you will all be able to hear each other. You won't hear chatter from anybody else coming from any other radio unless they somehow happen to be programmed with your same subaudible tone. So you want to take your grandson, your granddaughter, your child out to the local park. You don't want to put your $250 GMRS radio into their hands. What are you going to do? You can purchase this low-cost radio that we're reviewing today. You can go over to the Retevis website. You can see the subaudible tones. You can program those subaudible tones into your $250 GMRS radio, and then you'll be able to communicate with this $10, $15 radio. Or you can purchase the programming cable, download the software, and just delete these subaudible tones. Anytime I purchase gear like this, I like to see what other people are saying. Amazon's a great place to get free input on reviews. With 140 ratings, this receives a 4.1 star, not too shabby. So what are my final thoughts on this radio? I'm pretty excited that Retevis is the manufacturer. Retevis is a well-known manufacturer in Asia who produces quality products and stands behind them. So that's a plus in addition to those Amazon reviews. It's really small and lightweight. We've already talked about that. It's thin, fits in the palm of your hand, very lightweight. The battery is USB-C charging, which a lot of us like. We've already talked about the PL tones. That's something which annoys some people. To me, it fits the use case here. If you're going out with your group of scouts over the weekend and you've got a bunch of, children running around the local park and you put radios in all of their hands because there's an event going on and you want to play radio, you don't have to worry about them hearing anybody else. Yeah, other people could potentially hear them, that's for sure. But unless somebody else has purposely programmed in those PL tones, they can't be talking to your scout group, and that provides some level of security. Let's say you want to give this to your child that's in line of sight at the local park. They're playing on a swing set and you're sitting on a bench. You can't really hear each other. Well, if you put one of these in their hand and you keep one for yourself, how do you make sure that they don't screw with this simple interface and change the channel on you? It's real simple. Once you get to the channel and you press both that left arrow button and that center channel button at the same time, you can lock out changing the channel from that point forward. And so your child or your grandchild will not be able to change the channel. It's now locked. You can hand this radio over to them and it's going to be on channel 1 until you unlock it. So what are the things that I would like to see different perhaps in the future with this radio if Retevis does any changes or upgrades to it? 3 things to mention, 2 really not that important, and even the third isn't that important if the use case is right. The first is, it'd be nice to have had that programming cable, so I could have played with the subaudible tones as well as done something with some of the other features. For example, this left arrow button, it says that I can press that to get it to scan. Well, actually, when I long press that, it gives me an audible alarm, which is another nice feature to have if you're giving this to your children, to have an audible alarm feature. And that would be changed in the software. I can make the $10 purchase for that cable, but then I almost have the cost of the radio right there. But again, that's really not consequential to me because of my particular use case where I'm buying this radio. I'm just mentioning it so you're aware. The second thing would be, well, the NOAA channels just don't work that great. If I'm sitting here in my shack, as I am now, I'll demonstrate it. I can get channel 1 to operate for me. I can hear it, but I've got to play with it a little bit. Most other GMRS radios that I use that have NOAA weather channels, I get a little bit better reception. I'm absolutely certain it has to do with this stubby antenna. But again, that's not important to me because I'm not buying this radio as a weather alert. I'm buying this to use with a group of people in confined areas and specific communication where I don't need them to be experts with the radios that they're using. And I've already mentioned a great use case would be working with your local scout group or your grandchildren. In my case, I would put this in the hands of my grandson anytime and jump on over to the FRS channels. Here's an illustration of the weather channel feature. I'm currently in channel 1. Anytime you short press the power button, I am now on NOAA channel 1, and it's loud, and it's not very clear. Okay, so you see how that was just a little bit cumbersome. I could turn it on, it was loud, and it's staticky. So channel 1 comes in here, And you could see that moving my hand closer to the antenna got some reception. I got too close. I drowned out the reception. Again, not a deal breaker for me. I'm not buying this as my emergency radio during weather alert situations. I think the final thing, and again, it's not a big issue for most people, because of the use case, but for some people, if you really need to get this down to quiet or non-existent sound, you can't do that. I can't find a feature that will turn off the tones as you're pressing the buttons, and you can't take the volume down past a certain level. So there will always be volume. So if someone is talking, you will always have sound. If you're taking this into a New Year's Eve service at your local church and you stick that in your pocket and somebody starts chattering on channel 6, lots of people are going to hear it. So I wish it did have a volume capability to go all the way to 0, but it doesn't. Just be aware of that if this is a radio that's of interest to you. When you first turn it on, the volume is rather loud. My microphone is directional. It's aimed at me. It's about 18 inches away.
Power on.
That's loud. So immediately when you turn on the radio, you can start turning down the volume. And that is as low as the volume will go. It will not go any lower than this. So just be aware, there's always volume on the radio. Again, I like to provide information so you can make informed decisions. That's not going to be a deal breaker for many people. You now understand that's a feature of the radio. Take that into account as you make your decision. I can buy an awful lot of these for the price of one of these. And I don't have any other Retevis GMRS radios to put here next to this, so I've put competitive brands, and I'm sure Retevis will help me with that problem sometime down the road. So do I want to buy 20 or 30 of these for replacing one of these? Is that an intelligent choice? What's your use case? Go back to your use case as you think about making any particular ham radio decision, GMRS radio decision. Do you have a group of scouts that you need to outfit with a dozen radios? You can't do that with these. You're going to break the bank. You could easily do it with these. Do you need to go into a wilderness journey and you're doing a camping wilderness survival event? Maybe we don't necessarily want this, and maybe we want something that's a little bit more full-featured and high power. What is your use case? You hear me talk about that over and over on the channel. This has a place, this has a place. Make sure you choose the right piece of gear for the right situation. Thanks, Retevis, for providing these for my use and review, and I hope you found this useful, friend. Talk to you soon. 73.